Well, hello everyone and welcome again to Painless Universal, a conversation with myself and Welsh. Today we'll be talking about living with pain and finding your joy. How do you overcome challenges of the world? You're going through a place where you've been expelled from school, you haven't been doing well, you've gone to prison, but you're still determined to understand, no, that this is not your path. How do you move away from that path, that dark part of your life of yours, to find your joy? My guest today did just that. My guest, Anthony Theophane, is a British former professional boxer who competed in 2003 to 2020. He held the British Super Lightweight title from 2011 to 2012 and challenged for the WBA Super Lightweight title in 2016. He has fought and won in 12 countries and headlined in Las Vegas. He was a 5-year member of the Floyd Mayweather's promotion in Las Vegas. He's achieved 50 professional victories during his 17 years career. He's now an author with his biography, Raised by the Hood, in which he tells the story of his life, which from the mean streets of London to the bright lights of Los Angeles. We'll be asking him, what does he mean, the mean streets of London to the bright light of Los Angeles? Also, on February 19, 2011, he won the British title at London Wembley Arena. His opponent, the reigning champion, Lenny Dunn, was making the third defeat of the belt. I am so glad he's taking the time out to speak to us, not just me, to speak to all of us about his challenges, how he's overcome pain, and how he's decided to work towards it to find his joy. His motivational advice, other people out there, on what they can do, who might be struggling, who might be going through a spell, being expelled from school or being in prison, but what can they do to find their own joy and be a light to society? Meet my wonderful guest, Ashley. Well, hello everyone and welcome again to Painless Universal, guys, a conversation with myself and Welsh. Today's conversation is all focused about your ability to overcome challenges and find your success. It doesn't matter what the environment throws at you, but utilizing that challenges that the environment puts on you to find your success. My guest, Ashley Theophane, who has just done this. He has achieved massive success. He is a British champion, a boxer, and he'll be telling us how he's done this through going through various challenges from a young age. Ashley, and I read your Wikipedia page, and it really tells a really great, beautiful story about your life journey. Obviously, it hasn't been easy, but at the same time, you turned out all around, which many people struggle to do. And I think it's something I really was desperate to speak to you about, is the ability to turn whatever life throws at you, but your ability to turn it into something. And if anyone asks you to describe yourself, how would you describe yourself? Who is Ashley?
I would say that Ashley he's very determined. That's one thing. I don't like to quit things. If I start something, I like to see it through and I like to give my best. Yeah. So I'm someone, if I'm on your team, you always get the best from me.
I like that. That. And it's very, very rare that people think it's we want to do things, but it's one thing that you want to, but it's also giving you 100% from it. And I like that you said that. If anything about you is that I give my best. You know, if you look back in your background, because you've had a very successful career, extremely successful. When you look back at your background, what led you on this path to becoming a boxer?
So for me, it was my father was a fan of the sport. So he used to watch the big fights when I was a little kid. And I started to watch them with him and I was like, this looks fun. So I was like, oh, Dad, do you mind if I try it? And my mom was like, no, my son is not getting hit in the head. So I think like 2 or 3 years went by because my mum was saying, no, you're not going to box. And then she eventually gave in and said, all right, to take him down to the All-Stars gym, but make sure he don't enjoy it. But so I went to the gym and I had the best time. I had so much fun and I was like, this is what I want to do. So I think I was 7 years old. It was 1988. And that was the start of what I went on to do. So yeah.
I think I'm almost like your mother because my son plays ice hockey, and
Okay.
sometimes when he started it, and he said, "Mommy, I'm almost getting that age where we could start body checking." I'm thinking, what is that? He said, "That's where we could really get ourselves around." I'm like, oh, I'm not quite sure. I want you to do that.
Yeah.
From your mother perspective, how did she get around? Because I think a lot of mothers whose kids go into sports are always cautious and always thinking about that dangerous aspect of whatever sports you're into. How did your mother get around into that thinking that my son is going to be?
All right, so for my mum, she just wanted me to enjoy it, but also for many of my professional bouts and my amateur bout, she never came because she just said she couldn't be there seeing me get hit. So when I would come back home or after the fight, she just wanted to know I'm safe. So she would watch the fight when it was finished and she knew I was safe, but she didn't really want to watch it while it was there live. So that's kind of how she kind of dealt with it because she just didn't want me to get hurt.
Yeah. Being a boxer requires some kind of extra determination. It's not something anyone just wakes up and say, this is something I really enjoy. If you look at your team's life, what was it like that led you, that you said to yourself, I really feel this is me. This is something I really have to be in. Was there something you were protecting yourself from? Was it like, okay, I can see the boys are around me and I really want to protect myself from the boys?
Yeah.
Was there anything on that path?
See, the funny thing was in school, I used to get picked on. Oh. So I used to box, but I didn't box in school. So when like the big guys, they would come up to me, I might get into fights, so they might try to attack me, but I wouldn't really do anything because I knew I could fight. It's like I didn't really like retaliate. I would just defend myself. Mm-hmm. So my father kind of raised me to never hit out. Like you can defend yourself, but never be the aggressor. So for me, I was a fan of the sport. I think a lot of folks outside of the sport, they just see the violence. But for me, it was a sport. It was something that it would make me get up and I would go for a run. I would eat clean. I would take care of myself. So for me, the sport was always like a positive thing. It wasn't really something that, I want to go in there and I want to hurt this man. It was more of like a sport. You get yourself into shape and you train and you want to win the fight. And that was and then at the same time, you build a team because you're training with some other guys. So you make friends and you kind of build a team. So there's a lot of things that is more to it than just the violence. Mm-hmm. Like there's so much goodness that comes out of the sport.
Any young person looking, a young star who's thinking of going into this profession, how did you jump from being just a regular boxer, going to the gym, doing it, to making it more professional? What were this skill set that you needed to achieve to get there?
Well, the founder of All Stars Gym, Mr. AK, because I always remember I was 18 years old and I was like, I want to turn professional now. I want to be on the TV. And he said, no, Ashley, you're not mentally strong yet. So it's all good that I was very fit and I could fight, but he said, you have to be mentally strong. And he said, you're too young right now. You're too wild. You have to wait. So it wasn't for another 4 years. I went back to him and he said, yeah, you can do it now. So it's very important to have mentors that care about you. Because if you don't have mentors that care about you in life, they will just make you do it and just take the cash and you get abused. So I was very blessed that this man cared about my health and he cared about me because he made me wait for 4 more years to turn professional. So for him, it wasn't because I wasn't good enough. It was because I wasn't mentally strong enough to go through everything that we have to go through in the sport.
And now, in the 4 years later, when you did go in, did you realize what the mental capacity that you needed to be? What he was talking about? Now, in case you're out there, you're out.
Yeah,
Someone comes to you and say, "What exactly is that mentally strong enough?" Because a lot of kids now, especially with social
yeah,
media and so much out there,
yeah,
they feel they're ready. They feel they could handle
yeah.
the world. But you just said there is a mental thing which we tend to miss out on it. What would you define as that?
So for me, it was the boxing business. So from when you go from amateur to professional, the amateur side is a sport. It's a sport. You go, you fight. But the professional game, professionals first, because it's about the money, it's about the business. So that is a lot of times young kids, you're too young to go in there when you're very young because it's a business side and they will eat you up and they will spit you out. Hence, you have to be very strong. But that's why you see a lot of retired guys who they stop the sport and then they go into alcohol, they go into drugs, they binge eat because there's a discipline that you need to complete the sport. And when you're too young, majority of guys, they can't do, unless you have a family and a very strong team, you can't do it. So I think majority of the time, guys who turn professional, they're early to mid 20s because that's when you're more mature and you might be more like mentally tough.
Wow, no, I think, even when I talk to people in the fashion world, for example, I said there's one thing being making the clothes, but there's also the business side of it. So as much as a lot of people want to be designers, but never forget the business side of making clothes. You have to sell the clothes. You have to have all the business around there. And then you realize there's competition out there as well. This is now no longer a fun game. You need to be in there.
Why do you stand out? Sometimes whatever you're doing in life, there's someone else who's doing what you do too. What makes you stand out of the crowd? So sometimes that's why whatever you try and do in life, you have to make sure that you're going to stand out. There's something special about what you do that next person does the same thing, but you're better than them, or you think that they're not as good as you. You have to believe in yourself as well. You have to believe in yourself because you're going in life, you're going to go through ups and downs, but it's the perseverance and it's believing in you. You have to believe in yourself because you're going to go through some downs. And if you don't believe in yourself, that's what makes a lot of people quit.
Yes. And when you do boxing, it's so painful. I can only imagine how painful it will be. How do you deal with it to say after being boxed and you've been beaten? How do you deal with the mental strength to go back again to the ring and take another beating? How do you deal with the pain mentally and physically, emotionally?
I would say you have your long-term and you have your short-term goals. So to say with me, I was British champion. I was with Floyd Mayweather for 5 years. I fought and won in 12 countries around the world. I got 50 professional wins. So there's always another goal. Like I was British champion. Then after I was British champion, I was signed to Floyd Mayweather. I was with Floyd Mayweather for 5 years. Then after Floyd Mayweather, I went onto a world tour. So you always have to have your short-term goals and your long-term goals. So that's how you keep strong in your mind. Like, all right, cool, I've done this. Like, what's next? You've done that. What's next? And then when you're complete, that's when you retire. You've done everything. When you've done everything that you can do, there's nothing more than you can do. So say with me now, I've finished my career. So now I'm starting out my treasure boxing. So for me, it's all about the young kids that's coming through. So that's why now I'm trying to give back to my community and do stuff for the community. Because for me, I had All Stars Gym when I was an 8-year-old. So now I want to help these kids, like be there for my mentor. My mentor was there for me as a child. So I want to help these kids to achieve their goals and their dreams, whatever it might be, and to help them on their way.
And you're doing just that. You're doing amazing work because anyone who looks at your page, you're really there. You're encouraging them, and you're also talking about diet. Where did you decide that it's quite important to chef it? Because on your Instagram page, you have a story about chef the cooking.
Okay.
Why did you think it was important to start talking about what we eat?
Okay, so for me, when I was 8 years old, I learned how to bake. And so I've always had a sweet tooth. And we learned how to bake in school. And so it's something that I've always enjoyed. But with the boxing, you have to learn how to eat good because you're training. You have to know how to lose weight. So I started to read books and to do a course because sometimes we want to employ someone to do the job. But if I'm going to eat, I want to know what I'm eating, what it's going to do for me, what's good, what is bad. So for me, I always wanted to learn. So because I knew I had to lose weight, I had to do this, I would go out and I would buy a book and I would read up on the books and what's good for me to eat and what's bad for me to eat. And I've always wanted to learn as a child. That's one thing I liked about me. I always wanted to learn about what I'm doing. So hence why you see, I do a bit of cooking now and then. I'm not the best, but I can do my little thing.
Your book, Raised by the Hood.
Yeah.
Life on the mean streets of London to the bright lights of LA. Right. Why did you give it that title? It's a very interesting title, Mean Streets of London to the bright lights of LA. What happened in London that led you to have to leave and find your path in LA?
So for me, like as a teenager, I got involved in crime. I done a lot of stuff that I should not have done. And that I was writing the book for a very long time, like while I lived in America. And I used to write diaries, like when I was in camp, like say if I was with Floyd Mayweather, like I would write about the day, like what's going on the day. And sometimes it would make me think like, wow, just the journey that I've come from. Like I got expelled twice. I went to prison. So I had so much pitfalls where my life could have went a next way. But because I was like, this ain't the life that I want to live and I want to change my life, I was determined to box. And as I said, I wanted to give the best I could give myself. So it's kind of, the book's like two halves. It's like stories of when I'm a kid, like getting expelled. My dad would come to the school saying, why can't I behave? You're not raped, because my dad's from the Caribbean. And so he was very strict. So he didn't get why I would come to school and I would misbehave because I'm not raised like that. And I got expelled, and then I went to jail. So for me, just to see how far I came, I wanted to write the book to show that, because we got this big knife crime thing that's going on now here. And I just kind of wanted to show a lot of these kids that you too can change your life and make something of your life and be what you really want to be. Because I always remember when I was 18 years old, because I was from a poor area, I didn't think I could achieve my goals or my dreams, because I thought no one cares about us. It's just us on us own, and like we're poor, we don't have anything. And I think a lot of these kids, they feel the same way. And if you don't care about yourself, you're not going to care about the next kid. And that's why I think a lot of them, they kill each other and were in the situation that we're in. So hence it's called, I could have wrote something to get more self, to say something to do with Floyd Mayweather. But the reason I wrote the book was to say where I come from and the bad stuff that I was surrounded in. And then I actually made something of my life in the end. I didn't become a statistic. I actually, I made something for myself.
That is really good. But, if anyone listening now and is going through that rough part right now and trying to figure out themselves, what advice would you give them?
Basically, I always believe that, a lot of us, we don't believe in ourselves. And a lot of times our friends and our families, they don't believe in us as well, which is very sad. Like sometimes your biggest fans or the best people is people that don't even know you. Like they believe in you more than you may believe in you, or your family believe in you. So for me, I think you always have to surround yourself with positive people. That's one of the most important things that you can do, because there was so many times that I was around folks who believed in me more than I believed in me. And they would say that actually that you could do this, that you could do that. And I would say, no, I can't. They would say, you can. And then I went on to achieve so much stuff. So I think it's weird as well. And I lived with my friend Celine for 6 years in New York. I didn't have a lot of money, but I was trying to get the breaks in America. And she used to let me stay at her house like for free. And I would just be like, why are you so kind to me? Like, people are not kind to you for no reason. Mm. So she said, I just want to help you, and I just want to help you. And we're friends to this day and stuff. So that's what I'm saying. I think you just have to surround yourself with positive people. That's so important in life.
Mm. Being accepted at Floyd Mayweather, his academy, I mean, what changes did that give you? How did that help you become a better person?
So with being around Floyd, it was great because I had already been British champion. I had already been like world number 4. But he was at the top of the game. And to be with this man for like the last 3 years of his career, see how he done his interviews, see how he trained. We would go out to eat, like we would go out to go for little jogs. So just being around him, like I always thought, like sometimes I didn't appreciate it because I was there and I see him every day. That it's when you step back and he's retired now and I've retired now, that you think like, wow, that was actually my life, that I was there with Floyd. And even now, like the last time I saw Floyd was when he came over here and he done a tour and he was just talking about his life. And then he just says to the crowd, he just mentioned my name, Ashley. He said, where are you, Ashley? I said, I'm here. And he just started to talk about me as well, like how I came to the gym. I wanted to give my all. And he didn't have to mention me. So that's one thing that I've always liked about Floyd. He thanks his team around him. Yeah. And he appreciates that hard work because he didn't have to sign me. When he signed me, I think I was the 10th guy that he signed. And I was the first from Britain as well. He didn't have to sign me. He wasn't going to get anything from that. But he knew a little bit about my life. He knew I'd come up the hard way. And he was just like, I just want to help you. And so he gets a bad rap because he's always got his money in his hands or whatever. But he also helps a lot of the community and he helps a lot of folks who are trying to work hard, but you just need that break. And, you know, he wanted to give me a break and it was great. You know what I mean? So we'll be friends for life. You know, it's all good.
I love that because I mean, it's nothing nothing really beats when we help each other, especially within the Black community. And a lot of us, when we get out, we tend to forget it. But it's it's so important that we raise other people, we give them a voice. And that leads me to my final question: is that you're doing an amazing. You've seen it, you've done it. What is your message to the younger guys out there or younger women who are struggling to believe in themselves, but know there is, there is potential? Day knife crimes in Britain is hard. Coronavirus has hit, and it's really hit a lot of Black people more. So that has led more and more people to turn into crime because they don't know what to do with their lives right now because they just feel there's no hope. Yeah. Actually, what would be your advice and message of hope to these guys?
My advice is like, there's help out there. Like there's people who care. Just look online. There's a lot of organizations like online, just whatever you're going through, type it in online and search. And there's organizations like out there what will help you. So like seek help. There's sometimes you have the mental health thing where a lot of us, we don't want to talk and we don't want to get help. But I think that's one of the biggest things that we could do is try to seek help, like for ourselves, whatever you're trying to do in life. If you're finding it hard, someone will help you. As they used to say, where I was in America, a closed mouth don't get fed. So like us, the only thing that they can say is no. And majority of the time, you would either get the help or they will advise you where you can get the help. So never be afraid to ask.
That is the best advice. I like that. A closed mouth does not get fed. That's really beautiful. Thank you so much, Ashley. I really appreciate your time today. Right. And I'm really, kind words of wisdom you shared with us as well. Thank you and good luck with everything.
That's cool. Thank you.